Hello everyone. Welcome to What If Naruto Was Stolen and Raised by Assassins and Thieves movie. Before we start, please go support Chinkle22 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken characters' gender. But of course, Naruto is a male born in Konoha but raised among assassins and thieves in a nameless village where only a select group knew his location. But after 16 years, someone goes in search of him to take him back to his origins. Naruto indifference. Minato. Kasha lives. Nanoko, sister of Naruto and Ginuriki of the Kubai. Satsuki Iha, Sasuke's younger sister. Whatever. Hi, I'm Naruto. In a village in the middle of the land of fire, hidden by trees, everywhere you looked, you were surprised by what you could see. Drunks, lights, music, loud laughter, hex, everything you can imagine in plain sight. I don't know why I would think it would be any different, Georgia thought as he walked down the only street of the village. According to one of his reports, a child who matched the descriptions he was looking for lived here. And to think that the son of a Hokage would live in a rat's nest like this, and even worse, now he had to take him back to his parents. Hello, sir. Are you looking for some action? A very beautiful young woman approached provocatively, wearing outfits that left nothing to the imagination. Georgia tried to control his impulses and with all the pain in his soul, had to refuse. Well, you're missing out, the girl said angrily, leaving and hiding a bag of coins. What a place. No wonder. Criminals who get lost are always found here. But what was the name of the place where I was supposed to go? From one of his sleeves, he took out a paper, the Hostess of Fertility. What a name. He continued on his way to the end of the street where the most decent building in sight could be seen. As soon as he entered the place, what had previously been a party venue fell silent. What a pleasant welcome. Definitely if it weren't for the beautiful girls, it would be the worst place in the world. But another detail of the place was that all the girls had waitress outfits. Who ordered the music to stop? Came a somewhat childish voice from the second floor, and quickly the musicians continued to liven up the atmosphere. G.I. approached the bar and took a seat in front. Excuse me, he called to the person serving at the counter who approached drawing a glass picture. Hello, what will you have? He asked, looking at him suspiciously. Georgia searched for his money bag but couldn't find it anywhere. He reached up to grab it but then looked up and saw the girl who had stopped him in the street. I see you know the boss's friend, the man commented and began pouring beer into a picture. The first one is on the house. You'll have to pay for the next one. Georgia nodded. I'm looking for information. I'm looking for someone, he commented in a low tone but one that was audible to whoever was listening. The man looked at the Sananon with a raised eyebrow. That's more than obvious, as are many of those present, he replied, nodding for Gia to look around. The white-haired man obeyed, finding nothing unusual until he noticed the badges of the people in the establishment. There were ninjas from different villages with their badges intact. They are all informants from their villages who come to this place for valuable information, so their presence is no surprise to anyone. However, being someone with the largest spy network in the elemental nations, you were the last person we expected to see here. The man concluded. Georgia just smiled nervously. What I'm looking for, I know it's here, but I don't know specifically where. That's why I've come here, the man nodded. Tell me, who are you looking for in this village? He asked. Ya took a napkin and wrote a name. The man read it and closed his eyes. Go up the stairs and walk to the end of the hallway. For your own good, don't open any doors. Knock and wait for authorization. That was all the instruction and he went to attend to another person. Georgia left his half-in beer and followed the instructions. He went up the stairs that led to the second floor and walked down a hallway with several closed doors, most of which had a seal on them. He was curious, but if he wanted to get the information he wanted, he had to reach the last door, which didn't have anything special about it. When he was in front of the last door, he was about to knock, but he was interrupted by the same voice that had instructed the musicians to continue playing. Come in was the voice that came from inside the room. The door was opened from the inside by the girl who stole from him and returned the money. Hello, old man, she greeted the girl, beaming. Hey kid, you're really clever. I didn't even notice when you took my money, Georgia commented, finally noticing someone wearing a black cloak with red clouds looking out a window at the street. Hello, Georgia, legendary San of Konoha, student of the 3rd Hokage and sensei of the 4th Hokage and leader of the spy network of the Hidden Leaf Village. What brings you to my humble abode? The young man asked without turning around. The girl signaled to the Sannin to take a seat. Gi sat down observing the place. A small library, some weapons on the walls, as well as several scrolls with emblems of the different villages. Wow, what a great collection of objects you have, commented the Sannin, observing the plural. Yes, for some they are worthless objects, but that's only because of their ignorance. Well, I think neither you nor I want to waste our time. Tell me, what are you looking for in this village? The young man asked in a more curt. I'm looking for a boy named Naruto. He's about 16 years old now with blonde hair, blue eyes, and whisker-like markings on his cheeks. I need to bring him back to Konoha because his family has been searching for him for a long time. As his godfather, I joined the search and my spy network brought me here, Georgia replied, trying to remain calm. I see, and by chance, her informant had the same tone of voice as hers. The girl who was standing to one side of the office placed a seal on her throat. Hello, Ya-sama. The tone of voice came out much deeper, making Georgia look surprised at the woman who removed the seal. It was the same tone as his informants. If he was honest, he didn't know the faces of most of his informants. Discovering that they had interfered and manipulated his spy network was unheard of and at the same time shameful. As you can see, it was my intention that you come to this place, said the man who appeared to be the boss, turning around and revealing his identity. Hello, Godfather, he greeted with an indifferent look. Georgia stood up. Naruto, is that really you? The Sannin asked in surprise. I think so. I suppose so, or else you wouldn't be in this place. Or am I wrong? Replied the redhead approaching his desk and taking a seat. It's good that you're all right. We must leave as soon as possible so you can be reunited with your parents. And you also have a sister. You don't know how much, but he was interrupted by Naruto, who raised his hand to stop him. What's wrong? Asked the Sannin when he saw that his words had no effect on the blind-haired man. I don't know if you haven't realized the situation Jirga-san is in, as well as my position here. I am the greatest source of information currently existing in the elemental nations. All those people eating and drinking downstairs while I talk, with you pay millions and millions for information that they can only obtain from me without sacrificing unnecessary lives. I've never had a family, nor do I want one. Now, if I were to leave with you, it would mean a financial loss difficult to calculate, which is why I'm having trouble deciding. Or perhaps the situations life puts you in are so difficult. On one hand, a very well-paid job that gives me the freedom to do whatever I want. And on the other, a family I don't even know and being locked away in a village full of rats waiting for you to hand them the sword so they'll betray each other. It's a very difficult decision, Naruto commented, looking at his godfather with boredom. But Naruto, your mother suffers from your absence, Jirga commented. I'm not interested, the blonde replied boredly. Jirga was about to approach Naruto's desk when he felt a pain in his chest. It seems the effects took longer than usual this time. Tell your brother to improve the product or I'll have to change suppliers. Naruto commented, looking at the girl accompanying him. She smiled nervously and went back to her task. Your brother is the bartender here. He's a genius with poisons, but sometimes he gets the dosages wrong for new customers. You know, Godfather, to make sure only decent customers can enter this place. Giorgio was sweating as he felt his body draining away. That poison is very special. It's only sold here to people who are nearing the end of their lives, so we spare them extra suffering. But when you're a healthy person, let's just say it causes a few discomforts, Naruto explained as he took a syringe from his desk and rolled it across the surface. After 7 minutes, no cure worked. I reckon about 6 minutes have passed since you drank the beer and came in here. We're at a critical point now. Gi watched his godson as he stared at him without any emotion used to witnessing what was happening. Naruto got up from his seat and walked around the desk to stand in front of Georgia. He placed the syringe with the antidote about a meter away and returned to his place. Gi meanwhile took the antidote and injected it. Wait a moment for it to take effect. In the meantime, enjoy some good music. Naruto remained silent to listen to the noise of the street. This city was home to the rejected, the ghosts, the forgotten, those who had no place anywhere else. Here, they didn't have to hide who they were. They simply had to live and enjoy themselves. But there was only one rule. Do not reveal the location of this place. The poison his visitor drank had another function to make him forget what he had seen in that place. He waited a few minutes until he heard some snores. Come in, he said, standing up and removing his cape. A gift from one of his clients. The truth is they were incredible and very resistant. and it helped him to find the material and make most of his clothes. Have you finished your meeting with Jerk? As Yasen asked a beautiful woman who was looking fondly at the redhead. That's right, Nusama. It seems I'll have to go to Konoha for a while, Naruto commented, walking to one of the bookshelves. He moved it, revealing a hidden room and entered, followed by the "it will be for a long time. You know, the girls miss you when you're not in the village," the woman commented, picking up 2 scrolls, one with the kanji for kana and the other with the kanji for shuriken, while Naruto collected some money as well as books that were on a small desk with a lamp. It's part of the job. The boss entrusted me with taking care of you in this place when he passed away, and I gave my word that I would. He turned to a wall where several weapons were hanging, took a katana, a ninjutsu, and a couple of knives, sealing them on his wrists where there were several storage seals. As for the girls, while I'll be outside, the others will take care of you. I trust them. He took another scroll with his clothes already prepared for long journeys. My husband would be proud of you, Narutkin. Although he was strict and demanding with you, it all made you strong and allowed you to inherit all of this. Naruto stopped to look at a painting, the portrait of the man who in life was the closest thing to a father figure to him. He gave a small bow and withdrew. The woman repeated the act and followed him so that the place would be sealed again. Back in the office, Naruto approached the Sannin and carried him on his shoulder. Don't forget, if anyone discovers this place, you must escape to the shelter. If you need help, you know how to contact me. For now, I'll leave before our guest wakes up. The woman nodded. I hope you succeed in your mission, and I hope you meet someone who can truly make you happy. You're too young to be overly stressed, the woman advised as she headed for the door. Please take care, Nanya-sama, Naruto insisted, following the woman. She smiled and opened the door to the room closest to the office. Go ahead, Naruto. We'll be fine. Naruto nodded, adjusted his hood, and headed for the stairs to begin his mission. Gi didn't know how long he had been sleeping, but a familiar smell caught his attention, and he began to wake up. He looked around and found himself in the middle of the forest. How he got there, he didn't remember, but everything was interrupted by a voice beside him. Well, you're finally awake, sir. I thought you were going to the other world any minute now. You've been sleeping for 3 days, commented a blond boy with blue eyes that looked at him curiously with whisker-like markings covered by a traveling cloak, black pants bandaged up to the knee and sandals of the same color. Wait, that description he exclaimed, pointing at the redhead who was even more confused. Me? Asked the young man. Gia woke up completely and looked seriously at the young man. What's your name? He asked seriously, making the redhead fall backward. I sounded like the great sage of Mount Mabuku, Georgia thought, remembering the old toad every time he forgot his name. Well, my name is Sadachi, the redhead replied. But Gia denied it. No, that's not your name, the Sannin denied, making the redhead sigh. What does it matter? My name is Naruto, the blond boy confessed. Konoha. After a long talk by Jirga, convincing Naruto that he was the one he had been looking for all this time, and that he wasn't an orphan at all. Hai's last name was Yuzuki Namikaze, and his parents were desperately searching for him. Naruto, tired of so much chatter, finally agreed to go to Konoha to meet his famous parents. He had nothing to lose. Or so Jirga thought, judging by his godson's reactions. Naruto had his reasons for going to one of the most powerful villages in the elemental nations to control the red light district. Many of the girls who worked there were sold into slavery from Konoha, which suggested that the market offered by that place was perfect for intervention. A place where everything was permitted was where you could kill your rivals and take everything that belonged to them. If the place had many sections, it meant that the profit was very small. But if there was only one owner, everything would be better. It was a world of ninjas. Kill or be killed applied to all walks of life. After almost a day's walk, they arrived at the village. The Yuzuki's surprised face brought a smile to the Sannin's face, but he noticed something he hadn't noticed before. Naruto, why are you wearing bandages on your arms? Naruto stroked his arms as if he remembered something. They were gifts from a man who took care of me when I was little, and they look great, too, he replied excitedly, and Gia nodded. They passed through the village's large gate. Wow, this village is huge. In all my time traveling, I've never seen anything like it. What is that? He asked, pointing at the faces carved in stone that stood out behind a large red tower. That's the Hokage monument, the former leaders of the village, although the third Hokage and the fourth Hokage are still alive. By the way, the fourth Hokage is your father, Jirgyu commented. But Naruto ignored that detail as he was observing the place, looking for some clue to what he was looking for, but nothing. It seemed he should explore a little further. I'd like to give you a tour of the village, but I need to take you to the Hokage Tower to report your return. With your resemblance to your father, everything will be much easier, and you might even find a girlfriend quickly, Jirga said, wiggling his eyebrows suggestively. Not to brag, but Konoha is famous throughout the elemental continent for having the most beautiful women, Naruto blushed at the comment. But you can see for yourself later. Let's hurry. And so, they both headed towards the Hokage Tower. They entered, drawing the attention of those present, especially Naruto, due to his striking resemblance to the fourth Hokager. So the murmurs continued until they reached the door of the village leader's office. Giorgio, with all due respect, entered without knocking. Minato Nizi was a man known and recognized throughout the elemental continent, which made him someone to be feared. Someone who maintained control even in the worst situations. But this was not the occasion. Mintoken, don't tell me you forgot your daughter's birthday, asked a redhead with long hair that flowed down her back, looking angrily at the powerful leader with her hands on her hips. She was his wife, one of the most powerful women in the village, known since the academy as the Bloody Habanero, a nickname earned through correcting and punishing those who bothered her about the color of her hair and the roundness of her face. What do you think? Minato replied, looking for something that could save him from his wife's fury. But the door was suddenly opened. How are you, Minato? Mission accomplished. I've found him. Am I interrupting something? The Sannin asked, seeing that his student's wife was in scolding mode, and the best thing to do in these situations was to escape at full speed. No, it interrupts something, the couple replied at the same time, making Kasha look at her husband even more annoyed. Well, it's good that you're here, Kushina, because I know this will also make you happy. This caught the redhead's attention. I hope it's nothing perverted, Ianon, or there will be bloodshed here, Kasha threatened, covered in a red aura as her hair began to move slowly. You offend me, Kasha, Jirga replied, figning offense. Kasha stared at him blankly, while Minato smiled nervously at his sensei's behavior. Well, whatever, I found Naruto, he blurted out, leaving the office in silence. The first to react was Kushina, who grabbed the Sannin by his clothes and began shaking him in all directions. Speak up, you damn pervert. Where is my Narachan? But Minato hurried to his wife's side so she wouldn't kill his sensei. Calm down, dear, and let Jiraiya sensei finish. Although he appeared calm on the outside, inside he was thanking Kamisama for the arrival of his sensei who saved him from his wife's fury for forgetting his daughter's birthday. Kasha let go of him but the nervousness and anxiety remained. Gi recovered and straightened his clothes. Well, this is how they repay my super efforts. Typical of people who don't appreciate the art of my novels. But well, young man, go ahead. There's no danger now, Gi said stepping aside. Minato and Kushina stared at the door to see who they were looking for. Someone appeared in the doorway who stopped her heart. Although he had changed a lot in these 16 years, she would recognize him anywhere. After all, she had brought him into this world. For a moment, she remembered the last time she had seen him before being informed of his disappearance. Sochi, Kasha whispered before walking towards Naruto, who was looking at her in confusion. Soy, I'm your mom, Kasha said, reaching Naruto's side and hugging him. Kasha felt her eyes sting, a sign that she was about to cry, but it didn't matter. Her son was back. It was still unclear how his disappearance happened, but having him back filled a void in her heart, especially since she had almost died 13 years ago without knowing anything about her son. Well, my name is Naruto and I'm 16 years old, Naruto introduced himself, still being hugged by Kasha. Could you please let go? The blonde boy asked politely. Kasha looked at him for a moment and understood that perhaps it was strange and difficult for him to have someone say that she was his mother. Well, Naruto, my wife's name is Kasha Uzuaki, and I am Minato Nikaze. Although we still need proof to confirm it, I dare say with complete confidence that we are your parents. Believe me, your mother is never wrong. I'm glad you found us after so long. Naruto just nodded but remained silent. Well, Minato, for now, I must retire to continue my investigation. Gi sensed the danger and left as quickly as possible since Kashna looked at him with sinister intentions. Naruto was going to ask him to wait, but apparently the Sannin's fear of the redhead was much greater. So, here he was meeting with his parents again. What's supposed to happen now? Naruto asked, looking around the entire office from his position. He felt like he was being watched from the ceiling, but he couldn't see anyone. Now we'll go to the hospital to have an exam to verify that you are our son, and then we just have to wait for the result. By the way, tomorrow is my daughter's birthday. She turns 13 and this year she also graduates as a Janine from the village. Minato commented proudly. That's right, her name is Nanoko Yuzuki. Come forward, was the call of Iruka Yumino Chunin, sensei of the Ninja Academy of the village. Today they were reviewing the cloning technique. Almost everyone was ready, but the one who was having the most difficulty was the Hokage daughter. Something hard to believe knowing who her parents were. Come on, Iruka-sensei, there's no need to do this. I'm terrible at the cloning jutsu, the redhead complained, somewhat annoyed. Come on, Baka, just come in already, ordered a dark-haired man who had been his rival for as long as he could remember, since unfortunately he was the older brother of his best friend. Shut up, Sasuke team. I wish you were a bit more like Satsuki-chan. Maybe then you'd have a girlfriend and wouldn't be the emo you are, Yuzuki muttered to the black-haired girl. Sasuke ignored that last part. Having a girlfriend wasn't in his plans. He wanted to surpass his brother. Hurry up, Nanoko. We all want to leave early, Iruka urged, supported by all his students. It was the weekend and he just wanted to rest from his students. Oh well, whatever, it's not like I'm going to succeed anyway, he said, making the hand seals and concentrating his chakra. Bushin, no jutsu, he shouted, causing a smoke explosion to engulf the redhead. Damn it, I failed again, the redhead complained as she headed towards the academy exit, kicking a stone. Practice more, Dabi, and try not to make a fool of yourself on the final exam, Sasuke commented, hurrying towards the exit. Hello, Ni and Nanokich, a girl's voice called out to them both. They both looked towards the exit and found a black-haired girl staring at them. Sister, what are you doing here? Sasuke asked, trying to keep his expression serious, but it was strange for his sister to be walking alone through the village streets, especially considering how shy she was. Satsuki-chan, shouted the redhead, hugging the black-haired girl, who smiled nervously. Thank goodness you haven't become an emo like your annoying brother. Please never change, pleaded the Yuzuki desperately, making the black-haired girl laugh and teasing the black-haired boy. Hello, Nanuka-chan, Satsukin, and Sasuke-chan. The three heard the greeting, but Sasuke was the most embarrassed. Yes, Sasuke-chan, the redhead teased the black-haired boy. Hello, Kashina-sama, Satsuki greeted the older redhead who approached to take her cheeks in her hands. Satsukin, how many times have I told you to call me Aunt Kasha? Do it for me, okay? Kasha insisted. Satsuki nodded quickly, feeling her cheeks begin to hurt. That's so you don't forget. Kasha finished giving her a hug. By the way, Fubakashi, don't forget to remind your idiot father that tomorrow is Nano-Kachan's birthday. Sasuke pretended not to notice, looking away, which annoyed Kasha, who approached the dark-haired boy and placed her fist on his head. Don't you forget it too, you emo brat. Sasuke tried to ignore his mother's best friend's behavior, though he still didn't understand how his mother could be friends with a crazy person. Kasen, who is he? Nanoko asked, pointing to a blonde-haired boy a little taller than her, looking curiously at those present. Both Sasuke and Satsuki watched him. Kasha regained her composure and approached the boy standing beside him. He's a special guest of your father for your birthday. He'll be staying with us during his time in the village. His name is Naruto and he's 16 years old. What do you say, Satsuki? Is he your type? The redhead asked the younger Akka, who stared at the blonde boy, his hair, his face, especially his eyes that expressed absolute peace. She slowly began to blush, lowering her gaze as she took a few steps closer to her aunt's guest. Oh, hello, my name is Satsuki. Aha. Nice to meet you, Naruto's. She gave a slight bow. Naruto, for his part, separated from Kasha to approach the black-haired girl whose nervousness was noticeable from miles away, that in the bad intentions expressed by the one who seemed to be her older brother. Hello, Satsuki, my name is Naruto. Nice to meet you, the blonde boy said with a slight nod. But everything was interrupted by Sasuke. My name is Sasuke. Aha. And now we're leaving, said the black-haired man, taking his sister by the hand. Emo and overprotective of his sister. Ha. Now I have more material to tease him about. Nanoko commented with a malevolent smile. Daughter, won't you greet our guest? Kasha asked, looking at her daughter with a raised eyebrow. Hello, Naruto-token, I hope we get along well. The younger redhead finally greeted Naruto, who nodded. Well, let's go. I have to prepare dinner for tonight. Today, I'll prepare something special to welcome our special guest. Kasha shouted. Yes, ramen. Nanako followed. It had to be ramen, Naruto thought, a drop of sweat forming on his forehead. He didn't like ramen, and there was no way he would ever like that damn broth. I want more, please, the blonde boy asked already on his fourth plate. How can it taste so good? Naruto wondered. It wasn't the first time he'd eaten it, but this one tasted much better. For Kasha, it was a moment of great happiness that her son was enjoying his food. Nanako was in her personal ramen eating competition, and finally, Minato was still on his first serving. Learn from Naruto, Mintoken. You need to be more of a man and eat more ramen. Minato smiled nervously at his wife's logic. By the way, tomorrow I'd like to tour the village. I don't know how long I'll be staying, and I'd like to get to know it, Naruto said, stopping his eating. Well, tomorrow I'll ask someone to accompany you, Minato replied. I'd like to join you, but I have to prepare Nanoko-chan's birthday party, Kashna replied, somewhat discouraged about not spending time with her son. I'm going to visit Hinataken tomorrow, Nanoko replied, continuing to eat. Don't worry, exploring unfamiliar places is normal for me, Naruto explained. But that's fine. Although, as a recommendation, don't go to the slums. They're very dangerous streets, Minato warned, receiving a nod from the Uzumaki. It's very easy to identify where it starts, so you won't get lost. If you need anything, you can go directly to the Hokage Tower, which is visible from any point in the village. Naruto nodded, and so dinner continued without complications. Later that night, everyone was in their own room. Naruto was lying in the guest room. He got up from his bed and went to the window. He was only wearing his pants and a long-sleeved shirt that left half of his hands visible. But then he heard knocks on his door. Go ahead, he authorized the person outside, who was Kushina. Soy, are you comfortable? Don't you need anything? She asked somewhat anxiously, trying to give her son every comfort. Naruto, for his part, dropped his character to look at her wearily. Everything is fine, thank you very much. Kasha could only make out her son's silhouette near the window, so she turned on the light. Everything was tidy, as if nothing had been used. Even her son's things were still in their place. Aren't you going to unpack? Asked the redhead, taking a seat at the foot of the bed. I have a habit of never unpacking since I'm always moving from one place to another. Besides, tomorrow we'll be able to find out if I am or not the son you have been looking for so long. Until now, we have only let ourselves be guided by your intuition, Naruto commented, taking a seat next to the redhead. I truly feel that you are my son. My heart tells me so, and I know it's true, Kushina said, her voice breaking. For as long as I can remember, I've never felt a mother's love. I was raised by my teacher who unfortunately died when I was still little. I've grown up without a mother and I don't think I need one now, much less in the future. But I believe you're a great woman and you'll be able to handle all of this. The blonde man tried to comfort her. Kasha, for her part, felt the words of the one she believed to be her son. Before he saw her cry, she stood up and maintained her smile as best she could. Good night, Naruto. Rest well, she said, closing the door. Naruto looked at the door inside. The less attention I get, the better, she commented, stood up, and went to turn off the light so she could sleep. Or at least that was the idea. She took her traveling cloak and left through the window, heading in an unknown direction. The pain of an illusion. The next morning, as usual, activity in the Uzumaki Namikaze family home began early for almost everyone. Nanako was still asleep. Minato and Kasha were having breakfast and Naruto. My dear, I think I'll go see if Naruto has woken up, Minato said. But from the door that led to the garden, he entered as if he had been summoned. Kasha didn't react with as much emotion this time as the day before, which caught her husband's attention, but that would be a conversation for another time. Good morning, Minato-san, Kashina-san, the blonde-haired man greeted, taking a drink and drying his face with a towel, a sign that he had been training. Good morning, Naruto. I didn't hear you get up to train. Minato greeted. Good morning, son, Kasha greeted, continuing to prepare breakfast. Naruto looked at the redhead for a few seconds inside. Good morning, Mom, he replied, continuing on his way to his room and then to the bathroom. While Kasha stared in shock at the direction the redhead was leaving. Mom told me, she whispered, trying to control her happiness. She just had to wait for the exam result to feel complete happiness. Well, at least that's closer to normal, Minato thought. This afternoon, he would receive the results of the exam, and that would be a gift for both his wife and daughter on their birthdays. Naruto entered his room and took out his backpack, took out his scroll with clothes and then a plastic container with a hair sample that had a paper with the name Naruto on it. He looked at it for a moment before destroying it with his wind element chakra. "I'm sorry, but I don't need any distractions on my mission," he muttered, stuffing the remains into one of his backpack pockets. He took out the clothes he would wear, which were the same as when he arrived, except they were dark blue. He grabbed a clean towel and his toiletries, and headed to the bathroom. Once he was clean, he went downstairs, had breakfast with Minato and Kushina, and then stood at the gate of the property. Now to make my first visit, he thought, and started walking in an unknown direction. Around noon, Minato was doing his work when he felt a knock at his door. He put the folder he was reading aside and settled into his seat. "Come in." The door was opened and the only survivor of his team entered, accompanied by Naruto, who seemed somewhat nervous. "Hello, Kakashi. Tell me what happened with Naruto." Kakashi looked at the boy he brought to the office. "At first, I saw someone sitting on the Hokage monument. Nothing strange, but suddenly, he jumped into the void. So, I intervened and brought the one who was doing those strange activities. But I see that you already know him." Kakashi finished reading from his book. "Naruto, is that true?" Minato asked, shocked by what Kakashi had described. "That's true, but it wasn't a suicidal act. That's how my master trained me to practice my wind chakra control. My air jutsu have to be strong enough to stop me from falling from great heights or I wouldn't be the best in my element. It was just an exercise." Naruto explained casually while Minato and Kakashi's astonished faces were easy to spot. "Wow, what a sensei you had. Doing such things is rather extreme," they both thought as they watched the younger redhead and his training methods. On the other side of the village, more specifically in the Konoha slums, a hooded figure could be seen walking calmly, becoming the center of attention for everyone passing by. Who would have thought what a filth was hidden within the walls surrounding the village? Thought the hooded figure, but his path was stopped by two men armed with kunai, who judging by the way they held them, showed little experience using that weapon. "Give us all your belongings or we'll kill you," said the one who seemed more sane of the two. The other just smiled as if what they were doing was the most entertaining thing in the world. The hooded figure looked around to see how people were reacting, but nothing. Everyone continued with their normal activities. "No" was the simple answer they received, which threw the pair of thieves off. "What?" asked the one who seemed to be leading the robbery. "I won't give you anything. I only brought books and it's more than obvious you can't even write your own names. Leave and I won't kill you or insist and one of you will die." But the drugged-up man's response was to try to stab him. This caught the attention of those present. The hooded man stopped his hand as he kicked the other thief, snatched the ka, and began stabbing him repeatedly in the chest, making him fall backward. The other thief was about to attack him from behind, but with the same kuna he had used to kill the first, he threw it at the second, burying it in his chest. He then kicked the weapon, driving it in even further. With all the movement, the hood that hit his face fell, revealing Naruto. "Well, I'd better hurry back to that girl's birthday party." Naruto straightened his clothes and continued on his way, searching for the gangs that ruled and terrorized the Konoha slums. "Hello, Mkatachan," Kasha greeted as she welcomed her best friend. "I see you're early," the redhead commented. "Yes, if I didn't come early, Fugaku would do anything to avoid coming. So, this way, he'll definitely come. By the way, I didn't come alone," the dark-haired woman said, stepping aside to reveal her youngest daughter. "Satsukin insisted so much that she wanted to come with me and help with whatever was needed," Makoto commented. "Don't say that, Mom," whispered the younger brunette, her cheeks flushed. But she was hugged by her mother's friend. "Oh, Satsukin, you're so cute," Kasha commented, hugging her sister's daughter tighter. "Oh, did you come to see someone else?" Kasha joked, making Satsuki even more nervous. "No, Aunt Kasha, I didn't come to see Narute-san," the black-haired woman tried to explain, covering her mouth, which was even more flushed than before. "And who is Narute, daughter?" Makoto asked, looking at the dark-haired girl. But Kushina came to the little girl's rescue. "That's right, I should tell you what happened yesterday, but come on in and I'll tell you." Makoto nodded in Satsuki's side, relieved to no longer be the center of attention. Naruto stopped in front of what looked like a small casino with several guards at the entrance, all with various tattoos and faces that would intimidate anyone. But he wasn't just anyone. So he moved forward to enter and try his luck. As he was about to pass between two men, they stopped him. "No entry for brats," one of the guards told him, trying to push him, but unable to move him from his place. Naruto just smiled. "Don't bother me," was his response as he punched the guard in the face, breaking his nose. The others reacted to the attack, trying to catch whoever was causing trouble. While this was happening outside the establishment, inside the casino, several people were gambling and drinking. It was a place for all kinds of customers. But if you went further in, you could see an office with several tables and women counting money as if they were dispensing newly arrived drugs. At the far end of the room, there was a man dressed in elegant clothes accompanied by two women in underwear, each on one side of his armchair, chained by the neck like animals. Everything was interrupted by the entrance of one of the men who guarded the casino entrance, who appeared to be quite injured. Boss, we have problems," shouted the man, limping and clutching his right arm. "Damn you, how dare you enter my office without my authorization?" But from the casino came a great crash. "What the hell? What's going on outside?" the man demanded. "They're attacking us," he said. But he didn't finish when a katana blade shot out of his stomach, causing blood to spurt from his mouth, making the women scream in fear at what was happening. "Who are you? Reveal yourself, you bastard. You don't know who you're messing with. I'll send you to hell, you son of a bitch," shouted the man, searching for his kun spear, which he had obtained in the land of the come on. "Come on, we don't have to be so aggressive. I'm here to do business. Nothing more," a young voice was heard. The man took out his cunning spear and shot the body of the man who was stabbed. "Reveal yourself, you damn dog, so I can see the face of the one who will feed my dogs," the man shouted, pointing at the body. Suddenly, the dead man's body flew in his direction, falling on top of him. When he removed it, he found the culprit on his desk pointing a bloody katana at him. "I insist, I just want to negotiate," Naruto said, looking at the terrified man who knew his end was near. "I don't recommend you do anything, stupid brat. I'm friends with very powerful people who won't let this go. Your end will be terrible. Go away." But he was silenced by a kick to the face. "Shut up. My terms are give me everything and I'll let you live or die, and I'll still keep all your belongings." The man glared angrily at the one who had him cornered. "Literally, very literally. Well, I'll decide for you." Before the man could reply, he was decapitated with a single blow. "Now all that's left is to complete the transaction and I can move on to the next one," Naruto commented, climbing down from the counter. But he overheard something he'd missed. The women who were there. He looked at the table where there was a considerable amount of money. "I want you to count all the money and tell me how much there is. As for the drugs, burn them all. That cheap crap will only give me a bad name. From now on, you'll work for me. If you obey me, we'll all be fine. And if you don't, well, you don't want to know what will happen." As his master would say, you always had to let fear do its work. The truth was, they weren't any use to him. He simply let them go and hired other people who actually wanted to work. "Someone removed the body and bring me a new chair," Naruto demanded, kicking the chair with the body of the former leader of the place. As evening approached, guests began arriving at the birthday party of the fourth Hokage daughter, Nanakoyuaki Namikaze, the great heroine of the village. Among the guests were the leaders of the different clans of the village, as well as civil representatives, the elders of the council, and also the third Hokage Haruin Sarutobi, the shinobi Nokami of the present time. Although now he didn't think so much about his past as he was enjoying his retirement. "Kashinachan, and where are Minato and Nanokachan?" Hirusen asked the redhead who was greeting the guests. "Minito-an went to the hospital to get a document and Nanokachan must be getting ready to go downstairs. Hinata-chan and Satsu-kichan are with her," Kasha replied, although she was looking around for someone else for her son who was nowhere to be seen. "By the way, Georgia told me that he apparently found Naruto." "Is that true?" Hosen asked, interested in the topic. The disappearance of the couple's firstborn was a sensitive subject for the redhead. "That's true, but to avoid any mistakes, Minan ordered a DNA test to confirm everything. That's why he's not here yet," she commented somewhat nervously. Hosen understood this. They had been dealing with the same thing for a long time, and anyone in her situation just hoped the wait would end soon. "Hello, I'm sorry I'm late," someone said, interrupting the conversation between the adults. Both Haruin and Kushina looked at the speaker and found Naro, but dressed more formally than Kushina had seen him before. The first to react was Kasha, who looked the redhead up and down. "Wow, you're very well dressed, Narutkin. You'll definitely find a wife easily today." Naruto smiled, embarrassed by the joke, while Hiruzen continued to observe the newcomer. While the resemblance to Minato is impressive, but his gaze, Haruin thought, "Good afternoon, sir. My name is Naruto. Nice to meet you." Naruto greeted the old man who was accompanying Kasha. "Good afternoon, Naruto. My name is Haruin Saruto," a detail that surprised Naruto. Or at least that's what his face expressed. The truth is, there wasn't anyone in the entire elemental continent who didn't know about the Shinobi no Kami of this time. What an honor to meet in person the one who is considered the Shinobi no Kami of this time. Hiruzen smiled at the emotion with which the blonde-haired man expressed himself. While what an honor that someone so young knows about my history as a shinobi, Narutkin. Naruto nodded. He was about to speak, but Minato appeared near Kushina in a flash, drawing the attention of those present. "I'm sorry for the delay, my dear, but it took them a while to find the exam results," Minato said, sounding a little nervous as he saw his wife's annoyed expression. "That doesn't matter. Just quickly read the result," Kasha demanded eagerly. Both Haruin and Minato smiled nervously as the redhead was drawing attention. Minato opened the envelope, took out the sheet of paper, and began to read. Just then, Nanako appeared on the second floor. Kasha was supposed to lead the birthday song, but when Makoto didn't see the redhead, she took charge. Naruto could only watch as sadness spread across the redhead's face. Minato looked at her somewhat annoyed, which didn't affect Naruto at all. But when Kasha looked in his direction, he saw pain in her eyes. And against all odds, she smiled despite crying, leaving a bad taste in Naruto's mouth. Kasha wiped away her tears and began to sing the birthday song, hiding the sadness in her heart. Minato approached him. "I need you to come outside with me for AM, Namikaze asked, and Hiruzen placed his hand on his shoulder. "What's wrong?" Minato asked the old Hokage. Minato handed him the exam results as he left with Naruto. Unbeknownst to them, Satsuki was watching Naruto. "Is something wrong?" Satsukin asked a young man with black hair. "Nothing is wrong, Itachi," Naisama replied the black-haired woman. Itachi looked in the same direction as his sister, watching her folding a piece of paper while everyone inside the house was applauding the birthday girl. Minato and Naruto were standing next to each other. "It seems the exam result wasn't what we expected," Naruto commented, looking up at the starry sky. "The truth is that I was very hopeful this time, especially my wife. I think we let ourselves be carried away by the anxiety of hoping it was true," Minato replied, his tone of voice trying to hide the sadness of the moment. "I would have liked the outcome to be different, but ultimately I'm a traveler. I don't have a place I can call home or even a family waiting for me. It will be easier for me to cope with this, but I'm worried about Kashinezen," Naruto commented, remembering the redhead's face. "Well, either way, it was our fault for bringing you to the village. You can stay as long as you like or live here if you wish. I think we won't insist on searching for our son any longer. 16 years is too long," Minato finished, turning to return to the party. "I'm sorry I made you travel for nothing," Minato concluded, walking inside. "I appreciate your kindness and apologize for any inconvenience. I will leave first thing tomorrow morning and look for a place to live while I am in the village." Minato nodded in agreement with Naruto's words. When the Uzumaki was left alone, he uncomfortably shifted his shoulders. "Hello, Naruto. How's everything?" Ji appeared in front of Naruto holding a gift. "It's all very entertaining and there are many attractive women alone," replied the redhead without waiting for anything else. Georgia quickly entered the party. The fertility hostess. After a party that lasted until late at night, early in the morning, Naruto got up and tidied his room, went downstairs to the first floor, and left a letter on the kitchen table. It was only 6:30 in the morning, and Minato, who was the first to get up, woke up at 7:30, so he avoided saying goodbye. "Thank you so much for everything, and sorry for the trouble, Kashinezen," Naruto said without turning around, already knowing that the red-haired woman was watching him from the stairs. "Is there no way you're staying, Narutkin?" Kasha asked somewhat sadly. She knew this was the last time she would see the boy she believed to be her son. "I don't think it's right, but I sincerely hope your dream comes true. I know your son would be very happy with you." Without another word, she adjusted her travel backpack and left, leaving the redhead sad. They are good people, there's no doubt about that, but they don't fit into my lifestyle. With this, I can dedicate myself full-time to my work. He calmly made his way to his new home in the village. Who knows, maybe the branch would be successful, but first he had to fix up the area around the shop to attract good customers. Time passed peacefully. At the academy, they were just days away from the graduation exam for those who had completed their training. Among the students, it was notable that most were heirs to the village's great clans, destined to lead the village in the future. Kasha, despite her best efforts to find Naruto, had no luck. It seemed he had simply left the village. But according to Minato, no one had left under that name. He simply had to be patient, though he suggested she stop dwelling on the matter. They had already bothered the boy about bringing him back to the village based on mere speculation. Kasha simply ignored her husband's words. Naruto had something special about him. He was her son. She didn't know what it was that generated this feeling, but she was certain of it. The DNA test had been wrong. So, she continued her search, albeit more discreetly, even asking for help from her students when she was a Juon sensei. "My dear, you can't use one of my to search for Naruto." Minato tried to reason with his wife, seeing Yugo running around wasn't healthy for anyone. "Yugo-chan just wants to help me," the redhead explained, serving breakfast to her husband. Changing the subject, "Don't forget that Nanoka-chan's exam is the day after tomorrow, so don't organize any meetings for that day." Minato nodded. In the Konoha slums, just as it had been almost a month since the hooded figure appeared, everything had changed. What was once the most dangerous area was now a more cheerful place, perhaps too cheerful, with music and laughter filling the air every night. For some time, no deaths had been reported, and even a few shinobi were seen wandering around. But the story of the new tavern that had opened in Konoha began with a rumor. People were saying the place was quite decent, very pleasant, and that the service was top-notch. And well, one thing led to another. The tavern's name was the Hostess of Fertility, and beneath it, in small letters, one could read branch. The food was excellent, and the variety of liquors was even more enticing for those who enjoyed a good drink. "Come on, Kirin," according to one of the new guys at INT, this place was excellent. "Besides, you can't leave me alone. Who knows if I'll get drunk and something will happen to me," commented a very animated purple-haired girl while her companion just shook his head at his friend's behavior. "I don't know, Anko. I think if the place is located in this area, it can't be anything amazing. Even you've heard the rumors about this place. It's best if we go to our usual spot," Kirani said, looking from side to side to make sure no one could take her by surprise. Although to be honest, everyone seemed more focused on celebrating who knows what than on even noticing them. "Good morning, ladies. If you want to enjoy a nice place with a nice atmosphere, I invite you to the Fertility Hostess. Currently in Konoha is the first branch of this prestigious establishment that only serves select clients. But since this is our first foray into the ninja villages, entry is open to the public," said a young woman in a waitress uniform with an innocent smile, very happy to promote her workplace. "Look, Kiran, if everyone who works there is this nice, we should definitely go. Besides, it's an exclusive place. This is our chance. We'll regret it later," Anko said, trying to convince her friend. And that's not all. A new shipment of Toquility wines arrived just yesterday. If you present this coupon, the girl handed her a discount coupon. Your first order will have a 20% discount regardless of what you order. While the girl spoke, Anko looked anxiously at Karini, who ended up sighing. Okay, the dark-haired woman finally conceded, although deep down, she wanted to find out if it was true that they had a good selection of wines. Until now, she had only tried one type, and it wasn't exactly the best. And for someone who appreciated good liquor, this was an opportunity she couldn't miss. Go straight ahead, and you'll easily find the place, the girl said, bidding farewell as she continued looking for customers. In the new tavern, everything was music and celebration. Different dishes kept coming out of the new kitchen. Although it was breakfast time, some skipped the order to enjoy the good food. Most were shinobi who had just arrived from missions and were recently paid. On the other hand, there were civilians who came to see the more remote side of the village and were surprised by the place. But in what used to be the boss's office, Naruto was with his new assistant. "Naruto-sama, sales are adding up and continuing to grow like foam. We've even doubled the profits from drug sales. Of course, if we add the money from buying and selling information, he brought a tablet with the data closer to the blonde-haired man who put aside the book he was reading. Selling drugs in a ninja village was foolish. It would only attract the attention of civilians with limited incomes. But in this world, information is the most valuable thing. With good information, you can win wars without sacrificing any of your men. And that was the fertility hostess's business, obtaining information and selling it at a good price. The food and drinks along with the pleasant atmosphere were just a distraction that also generated a good income which she used to pay the salaries of those who worked for her. Not just the cook, the bartender or the waitresses, but also those who guarded the place and those who kept watch to avoid being caught. Several knocks sounded at the door. "Come in," the redhead authorized. The door was opened by the receptionist of the establishment. She was in charge of directing each type of customer to their place. On one side was the space for those who were going to eat and drink. And on the other side were those who were there for information. "Naruto-sama, there is someone who needs to speak with you. His name is Danzo Shimura," the woman explained. Naruto nodded. Danzo Shimura was somewhat less well-known than hers and Saruto Tobi despite being teammates during the Second Shinobi War. He was someone who had to be treated with care as he had very dangerous habits including betrayal and an obsession with power. "Let him in, but only him." The woman thought for a moment but ended up nodding. "If everything goes well, maybe we can get a good bonus for all the staff," he indicated to the woman who stayed with him. He nodded happily at the news. A few seconds passed and the door was opened by his assistant who allowed his potential new client to enter. "Good morning, Danisan. My name is Naruto. How can I help you?" Naruto asked politely, keeping an eye on the dark gaze of the man in front of him. "Itachi, can we train today? There are only 2 days left until the graduation exam, and I want to be the best. Besides, if I want to beat you, it's best to learn all your strategies and fighting style," Sasuke said while the entire Aka family enjoyed their breakfast. "I'm sorry, Sasuke, but I'll be very busy these next few days. If I want to be there for your graduation, I'll have to work twice as hard to get the day off." The dark-haired man's response somewhat discouraged his younger brother. "Don't be discouraged, brother. I know you'll be able to surpass Itachi Naisama in the future. It's just a matter of time." Satsuki encouraged him. Sasuke regained his energy and nodded. "Come on, Sasuke, don't be late for class. I don't think you want to lose your personal record," Makoto Clear's throat commented, pointing to a clock on the wall. Sasuke saw it and got scared. He didn't have much time left. He ate quickly and left, leaving the whole place silent. "Mom, why can't Sasuke know about my condition?" Satsuki asked somewhat discouraged. "Besides, I should be attending the academy, too. I feel so alone. While all the girls my age have friends, I have to train all day. That annoying guy," she complained, stopping eating. "Awakening your sharing in at such a young age forced us to make this decision. If you don't train your dujutsu properly, it could affect your body to the point where you risk dying. The sharing demands a lot of chakra from its user, so your body and mind must be prepared to withstand the strain. They won't teach you that at the academy. Only a sharing user can train another sharing user." Itachi finished explaining. He was in charge of teaching his sister while their father led the clan and the ninja police. Satsuki nodded sadly. "I wish I hadn't awakened the sharing," murmured the dark-haired woman. Makoto simply hugged her little girl who had to bear this burden. She didn't want this for her daughter, much less to lie to one of her children. Sasuke, so proud of the clan, would find that even his younger sister possessed the sharing, which would deeply wound his pride. "It's all about work. Naruto-sama, do you think it's right to do business with that man?" asked the woman in charge of the tavern's accounting. Naruto understood her misgivings, but work was work. They bought and sold information. They weren't allies or enemies. They just worked for the highest bidder, and the money offered by the Shinobi of Darkness wasn't insignificant. "Let's see how true Danzo's words are, Miko. Order everyone to be more vigilant about who enters the tavern's security zone. Don't think this man's presence is good for business. If we want to continue working as we have been, we must prevent these rats from entering." The woman nodded and left to carry out her orders. "So, a revolt by the Aha clan. That's definitely good information that will be useful to Nanya. But I'll verify it first. While I'm not friends with anyone, I don't want a massacre based on false information to be on my record," the blonde thought, picking up his book. He was about to begin reading when he sighed and placed it on the table. "What do you need?" Naruto asked with a bored expression, watching as a masked figure emerged from a kind of whirlpool. Toby. Hello, Naruto. It's been a while. You sure know how to hide. Well, it took me a while to find you, but here you are, the masked man greeted, standing up. It must be something very important if you were looking for me. What do you need? Naruto asked calmly, staring into space. It wasn't wise to look at Akia in the eyes, especially when you were facing one who had developed his jutsu to the limit. The masked man smiled and pulled a briefcase from his clothes, placing it on the blonde man's desk. Naruto looked at the briefcase, noticing a large amount of money. I need you to tell me everything Danzo Shimura discussed with you about the Aya clan's planned revolt. Toby requested directly. I know you're not exactly a supporter of your clan in Konoha, so why all the interest? Naruto asked, closing his briefcase and pushing it toward the masked man. The man just smiled. The person in front of him was incredibly skilled, someone he needed to be on good terms with. He didn't yet know the method used to obtain information, but everything the boy in front of him said was true, and that made him untouchable, considered a citizen of every known village since he had business dealings with all of them. If the blonde-haired man wanted, he could start the biggest war in history and still come out unscathed. I needed Uchiha to join my cause. With his skills, I can complete my team to start my revolution. And for that, the Aka clan must disappear, all of them. He emphasized. I see, but you know that in 2 days is the graduation exam at the academy, right? And that the clan leader and his family will definitely be at the academy to watch the second son in line take his exam. The masked man nodded. I know, but manipulating Fugaku is child's play. His hunger for power surpasses his sanity. For him, the Aka clan is the superior clan, and no one can stand against him. I need the clan to disappear, but I don't want to give any more power to a rat like Danzo. So, cooperate with me and I'll continue to cooperate with you, Naruto. Uzumaki Namikaze. Toby finished pushing the briefcase toward Naruto. Naruto took it and placed it beside his seat. He grabbed a sheet of paper and began writing what Danzo had requested. After a few seconds, he handed the paper to Toby, who read it and gave a slight smile. You're a disgusting but very cunning rat, Danzo Shimura. Thanks again, Naruto. By the way, some roots were creeping in, but I've already eliminated them. No need to thank me, Toby remarked, leaving several bloody masks on the blonde-haired man's desk. Thank you, Abido, Naruto finished with a slight smile. Oh, that name, it's been a long time since I've heard it. I suppose I'll allow it because you're a nice person. We'll meet again very soon, and don't forget the favor. By the way, give my regards to Nanyama. And just like that, he left. Naruto rubbed his neck. Too many requests in one day, but they were all paid for, so all that was left was to fulfill them. This is going to be a very busy night, Miko. Naruto said, calling his accountant, who immediately entered the office. Yes, Naruto-sama. The woman replied, attentive to the orders. I'll be out tonight, so you're in charge of the night shift. As for the bonus, it's practically guaranteed. Maybe we can even expand the place. This pleased the woman, so she simply nodded and bowed before continuing to work. Naruto stood up, took the masks, and threw them in the trash. Damn old Kajger. I hope this is the last of your tricks or I'll have to deal with you myself, Naruto thought as he left his office. As night fell, everyone in the village was resting, except for a few ninjas who were going out to celebrate or spend time with comrades, as well as the Yu who were keeping W. But among the shadows, a being moved toward the Aya clan compound, which was located far from the village center and the other clans, a measure taken by the second Hokage, Tabarama Senju, and his well-known distrust of Sharingan wielders. After advancing for a few minutes, a person stopped on the walls surrounding the Aya clan compound. Naruto looked around. There were guards patrolling everywhere as if they were protecting something the world shouldn't know about. I think they're overstaffed, but oh well. Let's see what we can find. Naruto entered the Aka clan grounds and began moving quickly, dodging the guards, who seemed to be just rookies. The closer he got to the clan leader house, the tighter the security became, but they were still novices, which meant the clan's greatest strength was concentrated in one place. As Naruto moved forward, he memorized the least frequented streets so he could have an escape route. He continued like this until he reached the clan leader's house. Almost all the lights were off except for the lights in the dojo from where many voices could be heard. Bingo! I found the Aka stronghold. Naruto positioned himself near a window, took out paper and a pencil, and began writing down everything he heard. In 2 days, the time will be right for our plan to unfold. On that day, the Aya clan will take its rightful place. Thanks to the Janine graduation exam, we will eliminate all the clan leaders of Konoha. But we will accept their surrender if any of them agree to serve the glorious Akia clan. And with the help of Itachi's mangaka sharing, we will seize the Kabai sealed inside that damned daughter of the orphan Namikaze. But I want Kashina Yuzuaki captured. I have other plans for her. Everyone laughed at their leader insinuations. Thanks to the large number of missions the village receives, most of the powerful ninja will be away, so resistance will be minimal. On that day, we will be recognized as the strongest clan. The civilians agree with this, so all that remains is. But he fell silent, sensing a presence outside the dojo. Naruto remained silent. Good night, father. I finished my training. Satsuki's voice was heard, making the whole atmosphere relax. Go, daughter, rest, and tomorrow I'll inform that you won't have training. Good night, Fugaku said, making faces that were obviously not noticed by the black-haired girl, but that Naruto did notice. This is crap, I'd better leave, the redhead commented. But he watched as a silhouette silently left in the direction of a river that passed through the territory of the Akia village. He was grateful that he had studied the map of the whole place. So just out of curiosity, he followed it. To everyone, Satsuki was a very shy person, perhaps even considered weak. But nothing could be further from the truth. She was strong, but her desire wasn't to be the strongest. She wanted to be normal, to go to the academy, to have friends, maybe even fall in love for the first time. Although she was still very young, she longed to meet someone who could save her from the world she found herself in alone. She approached the edge of a small dock where she constantly practiced the signature jutsu of any aha fire release. Great fireball technique, but which now served as her daily refuge. Despite the cold, she took off her sandals, sat down on the dock, and dipped her toes in the water. As she weighted her feet, she hummed a song. Don't you think it's very reckless to put your feet in the water at this time of night? Satsuki instinctively jumped into the lake to distance herself from whoever had caught her off. When she realized who it was, her cheeks flushed, something that went unnoticed by the other person thanks to the darkness, even though the moon shone brightly. Narute-san, you scared me, commented the black-haired girl with her hands resting on her chest, which made the blonde-haired boy smile. The truth is, I just went for a walk, but I lost track of time and ended up here. It's so beautiful, I didn't want to come back. I fell asleep nearby and heard the sound of the water and ended up here, Naruto explained, taking a cross-legged seat on the dock. Satsuki slowly returned and sat next to him. You must be pretty skilled if you can jump over the water so naturally. I'm lucky if I can climb a tree, Naruto said sheepishly. Satsuki smiled slightly, but in a very sweet. I've been training for too long, and that hasn't allowed me to enjoy a very normal childhood, the dark-haired woman commented, looking at the reflection of the moon in the water. Well, before I came to Konoha, I was just a traveler. The truth is I'm an orphan and had nowhere to go. I never had any friends. I just dedicated myself to training with what my master taught me. He died a few years ago and that's how I lost the only place I could call home. Becoming a vagrant or a traveler, which sounds better. Although, to be honest, knowing so many places has made me very well informed. I even have information that if I revealed it to you would probably kill you. This last part startled the dark-haired girl a little because of the look Naruto gave her, but the blonde boy ended up laughing. Nah, just kidding, not even I would be capable of killing a cute girl like you, Naruto commented, looking at the moon. A cold breeze hit the pair, making the dark-haired girl sneeze. Bless you, Naruto replied with a slight smile. Thank you, replied the dark-haired woman, hugging herself against the cold. But it didn't last long as she was covered by something warm. You'd better bundle up or you'll get sick and won't be able to enjoy this beautiful scenery, Naruto commented. Satsuki, it's time to sleep. It's too late for you to be at the river. Makoto's voice was heard in the distance. Satsuki sighed in disappointment, looked to her side, but Naruto was no longer there. But she was still wearing her travel cloak, which was warmer than the ones her brother Itachi used on his Ambu missions. Good night, Narute-san, Satsuki murmured before putting on her sandals, straightening her cloak, and running towards her house with a smile on her face. Naruto could see her from a distance. It's in these moments that I doubt whether I'm doing the right thing or not, Naruto commented, walking through the forest to the other side of the river. I didn't know you were interested in younger girls, Naruto. Toby appeared from behind a tree with his arms crossed. Whatever you say. By the way, if you want to do something without anyone noticing, it will have to be. Naruto handed him the notebook with his notes. Abido read them and gave the notebook back. Thanks, Naruto. By the way, do you think I should kill that girl, too? I could take her with me and maybe save her from the purge Danzo is planning. Abido suggested, waiting for the blonde's reaction. But as always, he looked at him indifferently. Do what you think is best for me. This is just about work, Naruto replied, continuing to walk. And that's why you're my best partner in all this, Naruto. You're a fundamental piece for Akatsuki, even though you rejected the position because of your promise to your late sensei. But don't worry, at least as far as I'm concerned, no one will know that you've supported us with information from every village, the masked man thought, disappearing in a whirlwind. A new look. Naruto remained in his office. According to Abido, the massacre of the Aka clan would begin when everyone was gathered in the Aka village to ensure there were no survivors. That was at 6:30 in the afternoon. He glanced up at the office clock. Only 1 minute remained, a minute that was turning into an unbearable wait. He didn't know what was causing this uncomfortable situation. What he did was no different from other situations. He sold information about the place that would be attacked, collected the money, and continued with the business. But now it was different. No, don't. Change the rules of the game. That's what you're doing. Selling information, not caring about who gets hurt. Get on with your life, Naruto. Don't do anything stupid, not now when everything's going so well. As Naruto muttered these words, he remembered Satsuki's face, which made him even more nervous. The clock seemed to be ticking slower than usual, its bezel exaggeratedly high. He got up and went to where a water pitcher and 3 glasses were. He poured water into one of the glasses and started pacing around his office, staring at the same object. Damn clock, he said. But then he noticed the clock showed the time the masked man had told him. To hell with it, he growled, throwing the glass to the floor. Meanwhile, at a base beneath the village, a meeting was taking place between Danzo Shimura and the Hokage advisors, who were also old comrades of the Shinobi of Darkness. The reason for the meeting was the Aka massacre that would be carried out on the day of the exam tomorrow. Are you sure it will work, Danzo? Because if Minato and Hurin find out about us, I don't even want to imagine what our punishment will be. Let's not forget what happened to Kashina Uzuki's firstborn son. There are too many reasons for them to execute us without any trial, Kaharu said, supported by Himura. You shouldn't worry about that. The information I have comes from a reliable source. Tomorrow will be the day the Ville's credibility and trust in the Hokage will plummet to zero. And that's when we'll step in to seize everything and elevate Konoha to new heights as the most powerful village in the world and then conquer the entire elemental continent. Danzo explained, recalling the information obtained from the owner of the fertility hostess. Just wait a little longer, Danzo concluded. In the Aka village, everyone was already in their homes preparing for what would happen tomorrow. Although all those considered mere civilians within the clan disagreed with this, they had no choice but to submit to the will of the clan leader, but there was a feeling in the air that something was going to happen. For a moment, no noise was heard which caught the attention of those making their rounds. Are you ready, Itachi? Above the ninja police headquarters stood the eldest son of the Aka clan leader and a masked man beside him. Yes, and after everything is over, I will accompany you, Itachi replied, activating his sharing. I wonder if he'll appear, the masked man thought, looking up at the sky and smiling slightly. Let's go, he ordered, beginning to cross through the roof of the police station. Itachi adjusted his headband and also disappeared in a leap. It wasn't long before the blood began to flow. At full speed from the slums towards the Aya village, Naruto advanced. The massacre must have been going on for 5 minutes already, if not more. If he hurried, he could save her. He looked down and saw Satsuki's brother. Apparently, he was going home. He checked that no one was in sight, got out behind him and punched him in the neck. It wasn't his intention to save him, but if he showed up in the village, he would definitely be more of a problem than anything else. After knocking him out, he hit him in an alley and sped up even more. Meanwhile, at the home of the Aya clan leader, daughter, go clean yourself up and then I'll serve you something to eat, Makoto commented, watching her daughter dry the sweat and blood that remained after training with her father since according to Itachi, he had things to do. So, you'll betray us, huh, Itachi? They both heard Fugaku's voice coming from outside. So they quickly went out to see what was happening, finding Fugaku staring at Itachi, whose A and BU uniform was covered in blood. I can't allow you to continue with your plans, father. Many people will die because of this. Itachi felt he was being watched by the masked man who was waiting for him to finish everything so he could leave. Above the Aya clan leader house, Abido was observing everything. But his interest wasn't in the father-son fight or the possible deaths of the others. Since he began negotiating information with Naruto, he had never shown interest in anyone other than his deceased master's family. The fact that he was spending some time with the youngest Aya was quite revealing. Naruto was much more than just his job. A slight smile touched his lips. I'd better focus on making sure they don't kill the newest member of Akatsuki, he thought. But he was so focused on assumptions that the fight had already started and Fugaku was already paralyzed thanks to the power of Itachi's Manjuku sharing it. He began to approach his father with his ninja, ready to kill him, ignoring the screams of his younger sister and his mother, who was covering her so that nothing would happen to her. Brother, no, Satsuki screamed before seeing Itachi stab her father in the chest, causing him to fall to the ground and blood began to flow from the wound. Brother, no, she whispered, watching him approach them, shaking his weapon to remove the blood from her father. Itachi, please stop, you're not like this, Makoto shouted, placing herself in front of her daughter as a shield. Itachi, for his part, just prepared to finish. Satsuki didn't know how to react. Her brother wasn't like this. He used to be a good person, someone who cared about her and would never hurt her. But it seemed that things weren't the same anymore. I'm sorry, mother, sister, but this is for the best for everyone. Their future will be even worse if I allow them to live. I ask for your forgiveness, Itachi said, his voice breaking and tears streaming down his face. This surprised both women. Itachi was not one to show his feelings. And yet, here he was. He must have made a very difficult decision. Move, Abido heard beside him as he watched Naruto pass by. Katana in hand and jump, positioning himself above the only living Akka inside the village. How conceited, doing the typical things heroes do, Abido commented, jumping up. A strong wind began to rise, causing dust to rise. Itachi covered himself and began to look for the culprit. Time's up, we're leaving, we've done enough. Abido appeared behind Itachi and grabbed his shoulder, being sucked into a whirlpool, finally disappearing. Satsuki, who was being hugged by her mother, noticed someone standing in front of her and her mother with their back to them, but she could make out the color of his hair. It was blonde-like. Naruto, she whispered. The person turned slightly, but disappeared in a burst of speed. The wind also diminished until it vanished. Both women, mother, and daughter looked around for Itachi or whoever had saved them, but there was nothing. Hake-sama, there are 2 more survivors. They heard the shout of an Ambu team approaching their position, followed by Minato and Haruin. Makoto, are you all right? Satsuki Minato asked as Hirusen observed Fugaku's body on the ground. Besides the wound in his chest, he had a lot of blood around his eyes, as did the rest of the clan, who were all dead children, adults, the elderly. Whoever did all this didn't distinguish between them. Makoto, tell me what happened here. Who was responsible? Minato asked his wife's best friend. The one responsible was, but Makoto remained silent as she remembered her son's face, how much he must have suffered to reach this decision. It was my older brother. It was Itachi, Satsuki replied, looking at the ground and trembling. He killed our father. If someone hadn't saved us at the last minute, we would have died, too. I don't know why he did it. He wasn't like that, she whispered the last part. I see. Anu searched the entire area for clues or any other survivors. Makoto, I ask that you accompany us. Sasuke was found unconscious in an alley, but he's in good condition. If he finds out what happened, it's best if you meet with him. The raven-haired woman nodded and took her youngest daughter's hand. She glanced at her husband's body for a moment and they left escorted by Minato while Hiruzen stayed with the Ambu. Something told him he should wait, that he would find something of value there. Suddenly, he raised his hand and caught a small stone. Without warning the Ambu or his escorts, he moved in the direction from which the object had been thrown. He reached the dock and found a sheet of paper with a stone on top to prevent it from being blown away. He saw that it had something written on it, checked the area to make sure it wasn't a trap, and finally sighed and took the sheet, which detailed the Aya clan's plans for tomorrow during the exam. Genin, without moving or anything, felt someone appear behind him. I see you've already read the content. That's what was going to happen tomorrow. While I wasn't responsible for the massacre, It was something that had to happen, the person commented. They had a young voice, but the calmness with which they spoke indicated that they were completely at ease, a sign that they had everything planned. May I ask why you appeared before me knowing there are many A and BU patrolling the area and that I'm more than certain I can defeat a young man like you? Harrison remarked, trying to identify the voice of the person accompanying him. It definitely wasn't anyone known in the village, and a villager didn't usually speak. He must possess shinobi knowledge if he could barely sense his presence. Suddenly he remembered the young man from inside the party. The one Jirga had brought to the village thinking he was Minato and Kashina's son. His name was, isn't that right? Naruto. He finished waiting for the other person to respond. I knew you would find out quickly, Hage-sama, but I don't have much time to talk. There are things that will happen in the future that are impossible to prevent. I am the one who facilitates these things, the one who has the information or obtains it, the one who supplies information to the villages of different countries as well as to the people who want and can pay the price for it. And if I came to this village, it's not to verify my blood ties. I came with the intention of doing business with this village, but I warn you that I have very important connections in every country. Revealing my name would put you in great danger. As far as I know, only the demonette of the country can demand the Hokage head and the Hokage cannot refuse. What happened with Satsuki, Sasuke, and Makoto Iho was not a coincidence. We will meet again very soon, Hokage-sama. Those were Naruto's last words as he burst out laughing after receiving a kai in the back from one of Harrison's escorts. He was still with he held the paper in his hands just as Naruto said. That's how what would happen tomorrow came out. Even what they had planned for Minato's daughter and wife. He folded the paper and put it in one of his sleeves. Sandom-sama, are you all right? Asked one of his Ambu. Yes, don't worry, he wasn't an enemy, but more importantly, are there any other survivors? The Ambu shook his head and Huru inside. But if we discover something strange and disturbing, this caught Herzen's attention, all the dead. None of them had eyes. Herzen looked at him for a moment and nodded. Seal all the bodies and take them to the morgue to finally give them a proper burial. The Yu nodded and began the task. Naruto, I think our next conversation will be very revealing, Herzen thought, walking calmly towards the Aka clan leader house. Decisions. The next day, everyone learned what had happened to the Aya clan. One of its members had murdered them all, well, almost all. In the hospital, in a room away from the others, Makoto Aha was talking to her youngest son about what had happened. While outside, Satsuki and Kasha Yuzuki waited. Kasha had decided to accompany her best friend during this difficult time. The activities scheduled for today were rescheduled for another week, including the Genin exam, a decision made by the village council. This was a heavy blow to the village's strength. But there was someone who, while understanding why everyone said that, was somehow content with what had happened. Harrison, after reading the information provided by Naruto, saw this as a measure real bait and extreme one, but one that would be sufficient to maintain peace within the village. No one could decide over the lives of others. The Aya clan received a punishment impossible to avoid, death. Haruin-sama Tsuruti came out of his thoughts and remembered the place he was in. It was the one that for a long time was his office in his time as Hokage. Although once one is Hokage, one will always be. He preferred to forget his more symbolic position than anything and enjoy himself like any other civilian. I'm sorry, I was lost in thought for a moment. What did you want to ask me? Reacted the leader of the Tsuruti clan. I was asking if you think it's necessary to appoint Makoto Aha as head of the Aha clan until Sasuke reaches the rank or age sufficient to revive his clan. Hirosen looked at him for a moment and sighed. I see no problem with a woman leading a clan. Even though they are only 3 members, they are still a founding clan and one of the oldest clans in the village. That and the fact that Makoto doesn't have to prove anything. Her contributions in the Third War are reliable support for her to use her position of honor. Harrison finished preparing his pipe. Minato nodded. I see, I think that's for the best. Husan nodded. Well, Minato, I have other matters to attend to. Husan calmly withdrew, taking in the office. The sun was at its zenith, illuminating everything. The village bustled about as usual, everything normal. But the most talked about topic was the annihilation of the Aya clan. Satsuki had witnessed it firsthand, and what was worse, she felt the pitying looks of the villagers, which made her feel even worse than she already did. Her brother, her beloved brother, had murdered their father in cold blood and had been prepared to kill her as well if it hadn't been for Naruto. The blonde-haired boy appeared just in time and stopped the attack. I wonder if I'll be able to see him today, murmured the dark-haired woman looking straight ahead. Satsuki, she heard a voice that surprised her. She turned around and saw him. It was him, Narute-san, she spoke in a low tone. The blonde-haired man was wearing a loose black t-shirt, amber-style pants, and black sandals. He had no weapons in sight, as would be common among ninjas, but he wasn't a ninja, so everything was fine. Naruto approached her. Hi, Satsuki, how are you? But he was surprised by a hug from the dark-haired girl. Thank you so much for saving us from dying, whispered the Aya, still clinging to the blonde. Naruto remembered all the trouble that had caused him, but at least he hoped to get a good client, although the main thing was to save Satsuki. He scratched his cheek and smiled nervously. You're welcome, Satsuki, Naruto replied, crossing his toes to avoid being asked how he got to the Aka village. He couldn't answer. It was just curiosity. Not even the most innocent person would believe that. Satsuki started to back away from the blonde boy until she was only a step away. By the way, what good do you do? Naruto's question took the dark-haired girl by surprise. The truth was, she simply wanted to get out of the hospital. She didn't like the atmosphere there. Nothing. I just wanted to go for a walk. Since yesterday when I was in the hospital, I visited Sasuke and we stayed all night. I just wanted to go to the pier in the village. And you? He asked, noticing that she wasn't carrying anything in her hands to show off that she was out shopping or something like that. I was just running errands here and there. The truth is I don't have many jobs, so I have a lot of free time. But they were both interrupted by a beautiful young woman. Everything is ready, Naruto-sama, the order will arrive in 3 days, but I had to pay a little more to speed up the process. Apparently, they'll only be making one delivery just for us. Naruto turned towards the girl without noticing how Satsuki was looking at her. She was definitely more attractive than her, which diminished her confidence. Thank you, Miko. We must have the best if we want the business to continue growing. Naruto commented, pulling the dark-haired woman from her thoughts. Business? Satsuki asked. Yes, you see, Miko is my accountant and administrator of my assets. Naruto introduced her. Miko smiled and gave a slight bow. Satsuki, still surprised, nodded. Naruto approached her and whispered, the thing is, I opened a tavern that's been doing very well, but to keep things going, I need to stock up on the best products at low prices. Satsuki stared at Naruto, still processing the information. 2 days ago, he told her he was just a traveler, and now he was saying he had a tavern that was doing very well. She put it all together, and her eyes widened. You lied to me, he said with a blank face. Naruto looked at him confused, as did Miko. What was all that came out of Naruto's mouth? You lied to me. You said you were just a traveler going from place to place and that you had no home to go to, and now you tell me you own a tavern, and how the hell can you own a tavern if you're not of legal age? Naruto just smiled nervously. Perhaps he had omitted some information. Don't you think it would be better to have this conversation over something delicious? Naruto asked, trying to steer the conversation to a more comfortable and private place as far as Satsuki was concerned. Is he asking me out? The Aka thought as she blushed. Miko, I need you to continue with the orders while I take Satsuki to the tavern. Naruto whispered to his accountant, ignoring the black-haired woman's babbling. Miko nodded, a drop of sweat forming on her forehead because of everything that was happening. Okay, Satsuki, shall we go? Naruto asked. Yes, Naruto-kun, I accept, he replied, almost shouting, drawing the attention of those passing by. Miko and Naruto had large drops of sweat on their heads. I don't even want to imagine what I was thinking, Naruto whispered, supported by his accountant. The group then split up. As Naruto walked along with all the calm in the world, Satsuki watched them slowly move further away from the safe zone. What her mother had told her was the slums, where the ninja system had little control. It was a place for all kinds of people where no one, not even for all the money in the world, would dare to live. And as if Naruto could read her mind, he said proudly, I know what you're thinking. Naruto's a drug dealer, a pimp, or involved in something illegal, isn't he? But you're right. Hello, boss, greeted a group of men drinking in the street. Satsuki looked disappointed at Naruto. She thought he was a good man. Hello, Naruto-kun, shouted a girl, dressed as a waitress. Satsuki no longer knew what to think of the blonde boy. Apparently, he was definitely corrupt. Oblivious to Satsuki's thoughts, Naruto responded to the greetings as if nothing was amiss, even receiving a hug from one of the tavern's waitresses. As for the men, they were the ones who kept watch and warned of those who approached the establishment. Naruto heard the voice of the person accompanying him and looked at him. What he saw confused him greatly. Satsuki was looking at him with fear. Had she believed the joke? I think we can't continue with this anymore. Yes, she definitely believed everything. Just kidding. Everything I do is legal. Okay. The men at the entrance occasionally go to the tavern to eat and drink. As for the girl, she works here. Now you're going to think I sell classified information to anyone who can afford my high prices. Please, that's illogical. I'm only 16. Naruto tried to explain. Satsuki, not entirely convinced, accepted what Naruto said, but would keep a close eye on everything. Naruto, for his part, felt like a sign with the whole story was appearing around him, but it was also the dark-haired girl wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Well, and here we are, my humble business, Naruto said, gesturing to his tavern. The hostess of fertility, the only branch in the entire elemental continent, the main one, is reserved for exclusive clients, and its location is only revealed to those who have the money to pay for what they're going to consume. This one, on the other hand, is still open to the general public. I don't know for how long, but anyway, come on. Let's go in and I'll treat you to want something to eat. Naruto asked. As for Satsuki, she was just appreciating the place despite all the noise coming from inside. Is this place always so cheerful? Asked the dark-haired girl while Naruto just shrugged. The service is excellent and the atmosphere is too, but their conversation was interrupted when one of the waitresses rushed out of the tavern door. When she saw Naruto, she ran towards him and stopped in front of the blonde boy who was looking at her curiously. What's wrong? The girl stood up, revealing her identity. Naruto-sama, it's good to find you. That crazy pervert started a new drinking competition, she said, sounding a little worried. Naruto sighed. Let's get this over with before things get out of hand, Naruto said, quickening his pace. Satsuki followed the blonde boy, admiring the waitress's uniform. It was quite nice. She wasn't sure if the waitress would be able to wear it. Naruto pushed open the tavern door, causing everyone who had been supporting a purple-haired girl in a brown trench coat who was competing against a fat man who looked like he was about to throw up to step outside. Who the hell started a drinking contest and didn't invite me? The redhead asked angrily, making the brunette fall backwards since what he thought would happen was very different. Oh, come on, Naruto-kun. Let me win this one. There's no point in competing with you if alcohol doesn't even affect you. The purple-haired woman complained. Naruto just shook his head in disappointment. The important thing is not to win, it's to compete and create new bonds of friendship. From the second floor, one of the waitresses used a photo to illuminate Naruto, giving a more symbolic air to her speech. Naruto, please stop this. Anko has to work in the afternoon, and I'll be the one who has to carry her, complained a black-haired girl, who was Anko's best friend. All right, everyone, behave yourselves. We have someone decent among us, and I don't want him to get a bad impression of my tavern. Some booed, but they ended up returning to their places to continue drinking and eating. As for Naruto, he was hugged by Anko. I hope that when I get off work, we can have a drinking contest, Naruto. Who knows, maybe if you beat me, I'll let you do a few things to me. But this was thrown away by Kirani, who looked at him reproachfully. Naruto just smiled nervously since he felt the danger very close to him. Satsuki was covered by a